Hello, and welcome to the Empowerography Podcast. This is a platform created for women's voices to be heard and a place to share their stories, journeys, and successes with the world for the purpose of helping other women who might be on similar journeys. We are empowering women one episode at a time. I'm your host, Brad Walsh, so kick back, grab one of your favorite beverages, and enjoy the stories. If you're looking for jewelry that makes an impact on your self-care routine and your style, Empowerography would love to offer you a discount code to one of our exclusive partners, Quartz and Canary Jewelry and Wellness Company. Please use code EMPOWER15 to receive 15% off upon checkout at www.quartzandcanary.com. Quartz and Canary is truly the place where spirituality meets style. Hello there, Brad Walsh here, your host of the Empowerography Podcast. Today, my guest is Adrianne Fekete. She is the owner and founder of Star Quality Investigations and a certified life coach. How you doing today, Adrianne?
I'm awesome, Brad. Thanks so much for having me.
It is my pleasure and my honor. I appreciate you taking the time to be here today and share a bit about your story and your journey with us. I appreciate you, and I'm really looking forward to jumping in here, learning a bit more about who you are and what you do.
Thank you. And all the women that are on your show and that listen to you very much appreciate you as well.
Thank you. So, Adrianne, as I mentioned, you're the owner and founder of Star Quality Investigations. You are a certified life coach. Which of these two ventures did you jump into first, the coaching or the investigations?
It was the investigations. And the reason I decided to become a life coach, throughout my whole life, even prior to opening up Star Quality, I was always one of those gals that people would come to when they had problems. And, and I'm talking about, in our teenage years and whatnot. And for some reason, people always can kind of open up to me and tell me, what's going on for them. And, I apparently have a really good ear and I'm able to give advice. But I just felt that with the things that people were coming to our agency with, so it could be, infidelity,
right,
child custody issues, missing children, etc., and, the death of children and loved ones, I felt like I had to take it one step further. So I got certified through Tony Robbins just to be able to deal with some of the things that I felt I wasn't qualified for. So it came very shortly. They were almost in tandem, but it came very shortly there afterwards.
That's actually brilliant, because you have to deal with people on a daily basis. These cases, these clients that are coming to you, you have to deal with them and know how to deal with them and speak to them and keep them calm and all of the things. So I think that's a brilliant idea. And I would imagine that not a lot of private investigators have that certification in addition to what they're doing. So I think what you've done is brilliant.
Thank you so much. It's all about a healing process. People come to us in, their most vulnerable and most difficult times. And I feel that people come to us for answers, and they're not just another file number to us. And, they're human beings that, with real emotion, raw emotion, and quite often very hurtful emotions. And I feel that it really is a journey and a process when they come to a private investigator.
Sure. So when did you start or found Star Quality Investigations?
Oh, boy. Now I'm going to date myself. Let's just say a couple of decades ago. It's been a while. Okay. And it's something I sort of fell into and loved and fell in love with instantly. Not so much for the investigative part of things, which is somewhat odd because I do have, a team of 28 amazing former law enforcement women and men that do the investigation, but it really is helping that person through that professional or personal journey that they come to us for, if that makes sense. So it's really about supporting them. Yes, we give them, their truth, but we also give them the support through the truth, because sometimes people can't talk to people, their family members or their friends, or they want to keep it very confidential. And so we're their person. Yeah.
What were you doing for your career before you started your PI firm?
Being a rock and roll girl. I had rocking out with the Rolling Stones. I had a public relations company and event management firm. I think we did quite well. We did 2 world tours with the Rolling Stones, U2, looked after the greats like Samuel L. Jackson, Colin Farrell, to name a few, and lots of others that I'll keep their confidentiality because they've requested us to do so.
Right.
But now when I say we looked after them, it was not their big, huge concerts and events. It was, I don't know if you remember, when the Stones came and they played at Palace Pier, and it was like a private last minute thing. So the second they land onto Canadian soil, we meet them on the tarmac, we've got security, got housing and all that fun stuff. So that's what I did. And I absolutely loved what I did. Got into some fight stuff with WWE and UFC and expanded out into there. And then, fell in love with this current business that I'm in.
Wow. So what inspired your journey into private investigation and security?
I'm still trying to figure that out, Brad. I guess it's, I always say life, the universe kind of delivers you certain things, whether, it falls on your lap or it just, so happens to be like that. My husband is former Peel Police Sergeant, and it just seemed the natural thing for me to do. And he was like, I don't understand. I've got this amazing career, recession proof. And, COVID wasn't even, a thought at that point. But I just felt that there was such an underserved area in the private sector.
Right.
And, my again, I go back to, my need and want to help others really drove me to that, to where I am today.
Now, you're one of the first women in Canada to venture into running a fully licensed private investigations and security firm. That is a huge feather in your cap. How does that feel for you when you hear something like that?
Strange. Very odd and strange. I guess to me, it feels nice, I guess, when people say that and say, trailblazer and all the breaking glass ceiling things. And for me, it's really not about that. For me, it is just something, it's always been, I guess you'll read about it in my book that should be released this year, but, gender never really played a part in anything I did. Okay. And I feel that, it is great. And if I'm inspiring one or, 1,001 young females or any age females to do and follow their dreams and what their passion is, I feel very good about that.
Yeah.
I just never, it's really odd. It wasn't until we'll talk about this, I'm sure, later, but it wasn't until, kind of 5 or 6 years ago, I realized, okay, yeah, I am a woman in a man's. I never equate gender into what I do, if that makes sense to you.
Yeah, absolutely. I just think it's amazing. And what an example you're setting for women who may want to get into this area of career but think that how am I going to do that? I'm a woman. How am I going to get into this male dominated industry? Or is it okay for women to be like? I think that is absolutely incredible.
I'm humbled when you say things like that, or people say things like that.
But it's true though. I mean, that's pretty incredible. You are a role model for that, and I think that's amazing. That's a huge thing for you.
Well, thank you so much. And that is, my journey today, and my future will be inspiring, sharing stories with others that, no matter gender, financial, social, cultural upbringing, yes, you can. It's kind of like you can do whatever you want to do.
That's it. And that's the message.
Yeah, absolutely.
What type of training or schooling did you have to take in order to, you are a registered PI, right?
I am. So you have to be in Ontario, you have to be a licensed private investigator.
Okay.
And there's a 50-hour course through the Ministry of Private Investigation and Security. Okay. And so you have to go through that, and then you have to write a test. And it covers lots of laws like the Privacy Act, Trespassing Act, what private investigators can and can't do, and whatnot. And then if you want to actually have an agency, that's a whole another animal and a whole new process where you have to, again, get licensed through the ministry, the deputy registrar, the OPP, and whatnot. And it is a little bit of a process, but I think it's wonderful because it really does help legitimize and help the industry as a whole. Because I think when people think private investigator, now I'm really dating myself, they, start singing the Pink Panther theme to me.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that's original. And they think, the long beige trench coat and the fedora hiding and in the shadows. But, I'm kind of here to say that's not what we all look like and act like. So it's very different now.
I think it's amazing. So, and I mean, when I think private investigator, I think you'd have to have some kind of police background.
Yes. And that is the difference with our agency and any other agency. And there are other agencies out there that are mostly just, and I don't want to say just, but they are licensed private investigators. They've either gone through college, they've gone through university, they're lawyers, they could have been former police or whatnot. Yeah. And then they write this course and they're a private investigator. The way that I have built this business from the ground up was that all of our investigators have former police training. Okay. I think collectively we counted, and it was something like 424 years of experience that everybody had collectively. And these women and men come from, organized crime units, guns and gangs, fraud, missing persons, homicide, things like that. So the amount of expertise, and I learn from them every single day through their experience. So I really do feel incredibly, fortunate to have such an amazing team.
Absolutely. What kind of challenges did you face, if any, being a woman starting a business in what I'm going to assume here is a pretty much male-dominated industry? And if so, how did you deal with it?
How many hours do we have? just asking. So lots and lots of stories here, but I'll try to summarize super quickly. Lots of pushback. Yeah. And like I said, I didn't understand why. I looked at it, I'll be honest, it was mostly from certain competitors. Lots of pushback. I had very little to no mentorship. I had one mentor. I'm just going to say his name, Tommy. He's a lovely gentleman and helped us, from start to finish, but nobody else would talk to us. And, then I guess sort of kind of in the 6-month range, we started getting threatening phone calls, lots of, hate messages, lots of slanderous things. And I would say up until about a year and a half ago, it got so bad that they would actually vandalize certain property. It got really, really bad. And I just continued to persevere. I didn't kind of look sideways, and I just kept very focused. And so there was a lot of pushback and very little support. Let's just say that.
How has the industry changed in your eyes from when you first began to what it is today? What are some of the biggest changes that you've seen?
That's a great question. And I would say that in the beginning, when we first started, nobody wanted to touch family law investigation and very little corporate investigation. Okay. And everybody was all about insurance. There was a ton of money to be made. And of course I was, we're going to pioneer and we're going to help the people that are being turned away by agencies, because dealing with family law matters and corporate, because most people's businesses are their heart and their baby, is very emotional. And so I thought I would be the perfect person to start that and to pioneer. And that is really what we built our business on. And then the insurance industry changed significantly, I'm going to say between 5 to 7 years ago. Okay. And then people that were in the industry realized, okay, well, maybe we'll just start family law investigations, and lots of copycats and, taking things from our website and whatever. And, we had already been in it for so long that, I think I actually encourage other people. And if they do it and they do it right, or they do it better than them, better than us, then kudos to them. So I would say that's kind of the biggest industry shift. Okay. I think there's more support through the ministry, which is great. And I think they're tighter on their licensing, which is also fabulous for, the folks that are such as ourselves and some of our other friends that are doing this and doing it to legitimize, if you will say. Before, private investigation was not as regulated and licensed. So I do feel like the ministry is really stepping up to the plate as well.
I'm seeing a theme here, Adrianne. You're trailblazing. Being the first woman were one of the first women in Canada to venture into this. And then you shifting the clients that you're taking on, I think it's incredible. And it's great that people are recognizing what you're doing and actually wanting to borrow from you and the model that you've created and think, oh man, I think we need to get into this. Look, this firm, Star Quality, is doing this, and they're creating success out of this. So I think maybe we need to shift our model and model it after what Star Quality is doing. So that's a huge form of flattery.
Yes, it is. And I do feel very humbled. And again, I think that there's a way to do things and to do it properly and to do it ethically and morally. And I feel that, our standards are very high when it comes to handling, somebody else's life. And so as long as, other people in the industry are following all the guidelines and the rules and regulations that have been set out, I applaud them and I hope they are successful at what they do. Absolutely.
Have you seen more women making the jump into this world of private investigation and security since you first started your journey?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I have. And we've been so fortunate to have women come to us after they've finished serving their cities as detectives or officers, sergeants, and they now come and they have, obviously resigned or retired and now come and work with us, which just gives our industry such a different twist. I feel that, men and women, we are different species, no matter which way you put it. Of course, we're both human, but I just feel that sometimes women approach things much differently. I need the synergy of both together, but I don't think it would work so well with it being just all women and no men, or all men and no women. I think the synergy is fantastic. So I would say, yes, I have seen a shift in women. And I get lots of phone calls too from, we do some mentorship programs through different colleges and universities, and, people wanting to, know, is this really for me? Can I really do this? And, of course, my answer is, oh, yes, you can. And, so that part of it is really rewarding when you get calling. So.
Now, you mentioned that you get a lot of the women who have finished serving their city and they want to get into this field of work now. Again, just to be clear, you don't have to be a police officer. Like if a woman took the course and wrote the test and passed the test, she could come to your firm and say, okay, Adrianne, I've got my certification. Can I interview with you? Can you give me a job, kind of thing? That's a possibility, right?
Yes and no.
Okay.
So the first part, the whole part about getting certified, you do not have to have former law enforcement experience. That is how we built, and that was my choice to build that way. I can't tell you how many female clients I'm like, damn, you would be such a good investigator. And they're like, I've always wanted to do this, in high school and, throughout my life. I'm the one that, goes and follows people's husbands or whatever around. And that's great. And I do actually refer out a lot of people that come to our agency to other agencies, because for us, you do have to have former law enforcement experience. And that is a choice. That is not a requirement. So that is the way that we have kind of modeled from inception.
Okay. Now, have you leveraged what you have learned as a coach and utilized those skill sets in your private investigation business and vice versa? Knowledge from your private investigation business into the coaching world. And if so, what have you leveraged and how has it helped your respective businesses?
Wow, that's a loaded question. I'm trying to think of how do I answer? What do I answer first? That's a great question, Brett. Thank you for asking that.
Thank you.
Because becoming an investigator, I never thought I would be as gifted as I am with individuals sharing their rawest, realest, most painful moments with me. And it sounds maybe not, I hope I'm coming across properly when I say this. I'm honored to be able to be alongside of somebody in such pain, because I see the journey of from when they call me, and whether it's a 24-hour investigation or whether it's a 24-day investigation, the growth through that. I feel it's very self-gratifying for myself to be able to help people in that situation. So it kind of ties into what you're saying. So yes, my life coaching helps me tremendously in the private investigation side of things, because we're helping people deal with real, sometimes very tragic stories. And so that has obviously helped me. But then to flip it, when I'm doing life coaching, things that other people have gone through, I'm able to also apply certain things into my coaching strategies and things that have worked for other people.
What type of cases do you primarily take and work on in your private investigation business? Like, do you have areas of specialty, I guess, for lack of a better term, that you take on as cases on a regular basis?
Absolutely, we do.
Okay.
We really do specialize in anything and everything family law.
Okay.
And family law is such an emotionally charged situation and industry to begin with. And so people, their lives are at risk at significantly changing or falling apart. And so people will come to us often for answers, and they say, you know what, I don't want to use any of this in court. I just want to know. And some people need to know because they're in that gray area. I find women especially don't do well in the gray area. It's kind of like, is he cheating? Is he not cheating? Has he hidden assets? Has he not hidden assets? And my male clients equally. And I have beautiful, wonderful male clients that love their partners and don't understand how it's gone sideways. So lots of things in family law, such as infidelity, questionable behavior, addiction, lots of mental health issues, which is very near and dear to my heart, child custody, abused and neglected children, which part of the business I really struggle with. And then also lots of things to do with corporate fraud. Okay. And again, also very near and dear to us because most people give their lives to being an entrepreneur and growing their business, from a little seedling, to whatever they consider successful. And somebody, comes in, whether it's blue collar or white collar crime, and they come to us when they know something's very wrong, but they don't know what it is. And we go in, and my guys, very, very specialized. They do a risk assessment management profile on the business, and they're able to help them out tremendously. So there's a lot of things we specialize in, but I would say that the two major areas would be family law and corporate law.
Why did you decide to focus on those two in particular, like so much focus on those two areas?
Well, I guess as we spoke before, it was so underserved.
Yeah.
And I felt that I could really help and support people through the darkest times in their life.
Yeah.
And, lots of times people are, just searching for the truth. And, when I get my male and female clients calling and they're just devastated and, I just don't know why she or he won't tell me the truth. That's all I want. So at first I didn't know what was worse, delivering the news that the man who had just gotten married to his beautiful blushing bride, 3 months ago was cheating, or the woman that comes to me and has been married for 35 years and her husband is, fooling around with, somebody much younger at work when they're still enjoying the fruits of the labor. Both are equally painful and hurtful and difficult. But I feel that that industry is so underserved. Yeah. So I feel that specializing in something, whatever that may be, and having the know-how and the niche to do like that niche market to be able to serve it, I think is why we kind of gravitated towards there.
What would you say is the most inspiring or rewarding part about the work that you do as a PI?
Seeing people get through their darkest times, getting that email, text message, phone call, 1 month, 1 year, 15 years later, hey, backpacking across Europe. Thank you for helping me in my worst of times. Or, happily remarried. Now I have 4 kids as opposed to 3.
Yeah.
I met my soulmate. Or, got rid of my business partner and we're thriving. We just expanded. So I guess it's the success stories, or just even maybe the knowing that we're helping people would be, for me, the biggest gift that people, and if they get a hold of us then and share that with us, that's wonderful. Yeah. And so I would say that.
Adrianne, since the firm is yours, Star Quality Investigations, you run the firm, are you still also out there taking on cases yourself as an investigator, or are you more now kind of running the logistics of the firm and all of that goes, all the responsibilities that go along with that.
Correct. That is what I'm doing right now. My love for investigation will never die, and I don't think I'll ever be out of the business, but I am definitely branching out through different areas, through some of our local chambers. And we just got accepted into the Ontario chambers. And,
Congratulations.
Huge. Thank you. It's huge for advocacy and for change. And so that is, where I am now. And right. I'm still always a big, big part of the business, big part of my clients' lives, and I will continue, and my team, of course, and I will continue to do so. But I've been so fortunate to have such an amazing team that they help me out tremendously. They really are, people talk about their home family and their work family. We really are really tight-knit, and we're a great bunch. So I will always remain there, but no, I'm not out on the field at all.
Do you miss that at all?
No.
No?
No, I don't. This might sound, and I'm sure there's a lot of people that can relate to it. When you've been doing something for years and it's so fulfilling, and then my personality, and there's only 24 hours in a day, but man, you can slice that pie so many different ways.
Right.
That I feel that I have sort of a different calling right now. And that is, to definitely, I've always been about, knowledge is power. So we did a big, huge thing throughout COVID, an investigative report where there was a lot of scams going on. So it's all still regarding investigation, but it's also creating the knowledge and the way people can get through certain things through different media outlets. So that is really where my focus is right now.
What would you say is the most challenging thing about the work you do?
I think for every investigator, it's different, but for me, it's detaching from my clients. You take on their pain and their suffering. People kind of clock in at, 9 a.m. and they leave at 5 and they leave their stuff behind. Some people. For me, it's very difficult knowing that another human being is suffering. So, we are 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365. So that's challenging for me. I've been getting better at it. I've got lots of outlets like, working out and shopping. I said that out loud. I did, but I would say I don't think I could ever 100% detach, but that's been my challenge throughout since I've started is to detach emotionally a little bit.
Yeah, I would think that would be incredibly tough to not take your work home with you. And there's a lot of industries where you have to learn to do that, but I can't imagine how hard that's got to be.
That's why I would never make a good police officer, doctor, nurse, frontline worker. It would be, for me, this is just for me personally, very hard not to take on that. And there's still cases that, I did many years ago that are still, I will think of the family or the person or the child or whatnot. And it's definitely changed me. It's made me much more grateful for every day. That is, I guess, the positive, but the challenging is that kind of hangs on.
For sure. How would you describe your investigative style when you were out in the field?
I would say it was just very true, very methodical, very authentic. People will often and will offer us crazy amounts of money to make up stuff.
Really?
And we just don't do it.
Yeah.
So I would just say I would always, and as all my team will always lead with integrity and honesty. So every case, Brad, is different and unique to its own.
Yeah.
Let's just say it's even, whether it's infidelity or corporate fraud, even though the story's the same, the details are different. So we customize every single investigation so it's unique to its own situation. And so, I feel you can't just go by one style, but you have to go by a set of morals and standards and values. That is the culture of our agency. And we never veer from that, no matter what kind of investigation we're doing or how different it is. The culture always stays the same.
What would you say are the top 3 reasons for someone wanting to hire a private investigator?
Well, the top reason would always be, so I would say to find out the truth.
Yeah.
That's a tough question. I mean, I guess no, because I'm looking at it two ways. Are you asking for what industry? Because I would say the kind of blanketed answer would be to find out the truth,
right?
To gather evidence for their court case, or to see where they're at risk personally and professionally. Is that kind of what you were asking?
Yeah.
That's okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What is one myth that you'd like to debunk about your profession?
Oh, only one?
You know what? Give me three.
Okay,
I'd love to hear
I'm
three.
kidding.
Give me three.
I'll give you one. Okay, I'll give you two. Well, just,
Okay, I'll give you three.
Okay, good. Well, people look at investigators as, like I said, slimy, lurking in the shadows, and it's just not like that. If you saw some of the investigators, even our female investigators, you would never know that they are investigators, and their moral compass is so high that even offered the six figures that we've been offered, we won't go sideways. And so I think that I would like to have people know that there are people in this industry, and this is part of the thing that we are kind of going to advocate and go through the chambers, is to take that kind of stigma away of, it is the fedora with the long beige trench coat lurking in the shadows. Because often it's, at Harbor 60, sitting beside you and your mistress having, a $700 dinner. Or sometimes it's, somebody buying, certain stolen product out of a back alley kind of thing. So it's just very different. And then I would also say the other huge myth about investigators that for me is very important is that, and maybe it goes back to the same thing, is that we want whatever our clients want. It's not about money often. Yes, it's a business. Of course it's a business. But it's also about assisting that person through whatever they're going through. Because often people will call and say, I hired another PI agency and I was just another file number to them and they took my money, and I just said, I'm sorry that that's happened to you, but that's not who we are. So often I get the privilege to actually, change somebody's perception personally and on a one-on-one basis. So I just say, really do your due diligence when you're hiring a private investigation agency. And there's a few good ones out there, and obviously I'd like to say including ours, but there's a handful of other really reputable ones out there. It depends on what you're looking for.
Well, I mean, there's a reason you've been in business for 2 decades, so that speaks volumes right there, I
think so.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think we're doing something right.
Yes, exactly. What would you say has been one of the most dangerous cases that you have personally worked on?
So I have always really, to be honest with you, because I'm not former law enforcement, I have really stayed away from anything pertaining to anything, let's just call it dangerous.
Okay.
And even our agency really doesn't engage in that kind of thing. And I'll tell you why. Whenever there's anything to do with drugs, guns and gangs, any kind of suspected homicides, things like that, child abductions. So we work on those kinds of things sometimes in tandem with the police. So as long as the police are aware, the family has retained us, or company ABC has retained us for these purposes, we're going to hand over all our evidence. Quite often they're very, very grateful. But if we're stepping on any toes, we don't do anything like that. And a lot of times when people call us, and they call us about sometimes often very disturbing things, and we really do encourage them at that point to go to the police, because, we are not the police. We can make a citizen's arrest the same way you could, Brad. I don't want to hear that you went out and started arresting people this afternoon either. No arresting people. No arresting people. But people, they think that we have that power, and it's off that, we have to follow the same guidelines that police do with certain trespassing and Privacy Act and whatnot. So, when it comes to anything really dangerous, I really do defer to my team investigators who are former law enforcement, and they almost always will refer to the police because that's the place people need to go for that. Yeah.
Is that something that's very common in the private investigative world, of working in tandem with the police on cases? cases? Does that happen very often?
No, and I think the reason that we are fortunate enough to do so, it's not, just to be clear, the police don't call us and hire us.
No.
What happens is that the families or the individuals or corporations don't feel like the police are moving fast enough. And sadly, I defend the police because I know their resources are thin.
Right.
And I will say, well, that's why there's the private sector. So if you are able to afford doing it privately, we will never step on toes. Often we will call the detectives that are on the case and say that the families decided to retain us, or we'll ask the family to call, and they'll be thankful because sometimes, families are waiting months or years until things are looked at. So Is it common for us? Yes, it is. And I feel fortunate that we're able to do so.
Now, is the private investigative world looked at in a negative light in the police's eyes?
That's unknown to me, but
Okay.
I would like to say no, because whenever we are involved, we're always, I'm thinking of that question, Brad, because it might be because all of our team are former police officers, that they themselves or our agency might be looked at respectfully. I don't know how others are treated, but for us, we are always treated very kindly and very respectfully. And in fact, a lot of times if, we're doing surveillance and, the odd time, a police officer will come by and, hey, what are you doing? They'll either know each other or they'll be like, and they'll just say, oh yeah, okay, perfect. A lot of times too, when we're sitting on places, we'll actually call the police and just say, you know what, we're working in the area. Here's the plates we'll be, driving in case somebody ever calls in.
Right.
And I think that those little common courtesies are something they greatly appreciate.
Yeah, I would say that probably goes a long way, giving them a heads up on things like that.
I think so. And I'm hoping that a lot of them, once they resign and retire, come and work with us.
Yeah, there you go. What advice would you give someone wanting to pursue a career as a private investigator?
My advice would be to understand the industry, possibly shadow or look for a mentor in the industry. It is not for everybody.
Right.
I'll tell you, even and especially our team will struggle. Even they've been with us since inception, and sometimes they still struggle with the uncertainty of the hours. So if somebody's used to working 9 to 5 and they need, their schedule up in advance, for 3 months because they have to plan stuff, this business is not for you. I would say that would be the only negative of it. But some people and a lot of our team feed on that uncertainty and the adrenaline of, what do you mean I'm going to Greece? That's awesome. No, I'm kidding. They're like, what do you mean I'm going to London for a week? So, they really do thrive on that uncertainty, but from a scheduling and from a family perspective, if people have young families or starting families, I would say just really, call me and I can explain, kind of the schedule. They can talk to one of our investigators. So I would say just understand the scheduling. There's a lot of benefit to it. And it's a great way even to get into policing. Some people will become an investigator first. And it looks really great on their resume and their application into different police forces that they've already got some boots on the ground experience.
Is travel a big part of the gig?
Sometimes, yes. Yeah. Sometimes. I mean, obviously pre-COVID was much different.
Yes.
But we work all over, so it really depends on where we're needed is where we go. So yes, that is interesting. And travel could be 6 hours north.
Yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely.
Be, a warm, sunny.
You're not. It doesn't mean you're always going off to places like Greece or Spain or something like that.
No, exactly. And when we work out of country, it's typically remotely. It's using our contacts and whatnot. Recently we had to find a missing person in Mexico City, and which I'm going to say that was probably one of the biggest and happiest cases that we were able to bring him home safely to his family, and without leaving our home city.
So you guys have resources all over the place, then people you can reach out to in different countries that work in tandem with you guys.
Correct. And that is so important. It doesn't matter if it's hidden assets offshore or people and teenagers, going on vacation and not coming home or whatnot. And we work with different consulates. And yes, so we're very fortunate to have our contacts all over. And it is all about creating relationships, right, Brad?
Yeah,
I mean,
for
I
sure.
think at the end of the day, it's never one-sided. They call us, we help them, we call them, and they help us. And so it really is an additional asset to our clients.
I love it. This whole world sounds so incredibly exciting and interesting, but I'm sure it's not always like that, which is another thing that people probably think when they think private investigation. Oh, this will be super exciting all the time. And I mean, there's got to be a lot of time where it's not at all. You're sitting around watching and waiting and all of that too, right?
Not really. I got to be honest with you.
Okay.
I would say more so, and maybe this is why we never got into the insurance side of things.
Okay.
Now, that's not to say that we don't do, claims and fake injuries and whatnot for our existing corporate clients, but our files are very go, and it's a lot of movement and there isn't a ton of waiting around.
Oh, okay.
I think maybe the gals and guys might think, it would be nice to, have a pee or go for a coffee, but doesn't really happen all that often in our world. So no, I think it's just because of the type of investigation we do. I'm sure in other areas there is a lot of sitting and, watching the grass grow, but not
like insurance.
Like insurance files sometimes. Yeah. That's what I've heard.
Adrianne, what do you think your unique skill set or superpower is that's helped you become successful?
Oh, well, that's definitely my lipstick and Louis Vuitton bag and Batman cape. I'm like, I love that question, but probably not the answer you were looking for. I would say, sorry, I had to throw that in.
That's okay.
I would say when you say stuff like that, and I'm glad this is only audio, my face kind of gets blushed because I got to actually really think about it. I would say it is the mentality of, what I always say to people that are going through any kind of change or wondering if they can do something. It's just stay laser focused on the end goal list. So if your end goal, is going to be, in 10 years, then, have baby goals. But I would say it's my drive, my loyalty, my love for others, the love of healing others, obviously the love for my family. So it's just LOVE. I would say that's my superpower, but we're not going to forget the lipstick and
of course, and the cape, of course,
and the cape. Gotta have the cape.
Adrianne, how do you define success? What does that word mean to you?
Am I supposed to say more Louis Vuitton bags? Because
you could say whatever you want, whatever you think.
My definition of success is kind of out there, but for me, success has always been defined from the inside out. So if I don't feel good about what I'm doing, I don't feel successful. And I'm actually kidding about the bags, but it's not a financial success for me because that will come. If you love what you're doing and internally you feel that you've helped somebody or you feel good inside, the success will come externally, which will include, whatever other people consider success, how much money's in my bank, how many cars I have, how many purses I have. And for me, the success is defined from the feeling that I have inside.
Okay. What would you say is one of the most important things you've learned in your life? And what was your life like before learning it? And what was your life like after you learned it?
Oh, I love these 3-parters, Brad. Your questions really make you think. And I love that. I would say just right out of the gate, it's something, and I always have preached this throughout my whole life to anybody who will listen, and not a lot of people listen to me, by the way, especially at home. No, just kidding. Is just, listening to our elders and their philosophies, especially when we're young, we're like, oh my God, I can't believe that they're saying that. But, I wish hindsight is great. But now I'm repeating things my grandmother would say to me, or my father and my mother and, my elderly and just, people that I've met along the way. They have something we don't have, which is the experience of life. So I feel that before I got that, I thought I've got this down packed. I mean, you're 16, you're 19, and you think you know absolutely everything until you realize you don't. And then you kind of start to pick out things that people that you love and that you've respected have taught you. And so I would say I was, prior to that, I was a little bit more closed-minded about listening to elderly people, because I think that the generation is different, which is obviously, now being older, I know that is a great thing. So I would say it has given me such valuable lessons in life. And I help, not only my family, but also my clients to realize, sometimes it'll be a simple question to a client. Well, what does your mom think about that? And they're like, oh my God, and then she always hated him, or whatever they say to me. Right. And I'm like, maybe she's was onto something. Do you think that maybe? And it's kind of like, oh damn, I hate when she's right, but maybe. So it's just, I would say that was a huge lesson for me, and that's something I really do live by, is just respecting anybody that has even 6 hours on me and they've got a story. I love to listen.
Love it. Who in your life has had the biggest impact on you, and why?
Now you're going to make me cry off my eyelashes. So, there's been so many lessons, but, I'm going to go back to my dad, who passed when I'd like to say quite young. I was 21. And, he taught me so many things in life. I was the second daughter. Both my parents immigrated here in 1956, and it was all about you had to have a boy. Well, guess what? He didn't have a boy. So guess who was the boy? But not that I was the boy in the essence of, well, you are my son now. Yeah. It was just nothing we did together was gender specific.
Right.
So, my friends were baking cookies. I was building fences and twisting wrenches. I'd eat the cookies later, though. And he was also an entrepreneur. He opened up one of the first cafes at Yonge and St. Clair. And so I really followed his footsteps. To me, he was bigger than life. And he always, made me believe that anything was possible. And so, so it would be my dad.
Beautiful. What does the word empowerment mean to you, Adrianne?
So many things. And I'd like to say living your true, authentic life and doing what lights your soul on fire, what you're passionate about. So empowerment is something very individual to everybody, but however you find that empowerment, it is within thyself. Yes, we look to outer influences such as your amazing podcast, books and friends, etc. But I really feel that empowerment is being good within your soul and everything you do. And so whether that's loving somebody, raising your family, being an entrepreneur, having a career, it's empowerment is knowing what lights you up and living it.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, you think about all the people that don't live their true life and don't go after what they want and stay stuck where they're not happy and they're miserable. And I think that's such a sad way to live.
I agree, Brad. And, that's why I feel what you're doing and letting people know that it doesn't matter if you're 18, 58, 60, it doesn't matter, age or gender. And going back to the lessons I learned from my dad, you are also doing that, Brad, for other people and letting them know that no matter what stage of life you're in, or where you are in your life, change is possible and you give people hope. And, and as I said, I think we all celebrate you for that.
Thank you very much. That means a lot to me. I truly appreciate that.
Oh, you're welcome.
Okay, we're going to jump into a little rapid fire section here. So the next grouping of questions will just be 2, 3, 4 word answer type thing. Okay.
Okay.
You got this. You got this. Okay. How would you describe yourself in one word?
You said 3 or 4 words. Driven, loving, loyal, healing. That's one word, girl.
What was your dream job as a child?
A lawyer.
Really? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
What's the first thing you notice about a person?
if I'm in person, their eyes, because I don't think their eyes can lie. They're the, into your soul. So, but I would say if we're on, a Zoom, then it's tone.
Okay.
Eyes and tone.
If you came with a warning label, what would yours say?
Okay, first thing comes to mind is flammable, but I'm gonna say no stopping, no standing. Those little parking signs. Yeah. Because I never stop and I never stand still, and I thrive in that.
I love it. If
These
you
are
could,
fun.
Well, I'm glad you're having fun. That's important.
Absolutely.
If you could teach the world one thing, what would it be?
Yes, you can.
What's one thing you want but cannot buy with money?
More time with my loved ones who have passed.
If you could change one thing about the world, what would you change?
People, I feel like I'm on Family Feud or Jeopardy. People's perception about mental health.
Love it. That concludes our rapid fire section. Now back to our regularly scheduled program.
Woo!
You did very well. Way to go, Adrianne. You did awesome.
No eyelashes. Thank you. And sweating a little, but I'm good.
You made it through.
That was fun. I like that.
Love it. What is an unexpected blessing or occurrence in your life that you're grateful for?
You know what? I am grateful for so many things. So I'll go something a little bit bigger. I would say the way the universe works and the fact that I have the intuition to know things such as, people are like, what a coincidence. And I'm like, there's no such thing as coincidence.
I agree with you.
I would say, I think you and I had a similar conversation the other day. And I just feel that I am so incredibly grateful for small things that I see that, that either fall in my lap or fall on my head, one or the other, because there's so much to be grateful for. So many times, people don't look at it that, oh my God, the universe, somebody's, has a doll and is poking pins at my head. But sometimes it's the way, the universe redirects us. It's not about, the universe is a beautiful thing. And I just, so I would say that universe is redirection or direction.
Can you tell me about a moment when a person's kindness made a difference in your life?
Oh, yes. I'm going to go back to high school, which was just, a few years ago.
Yeah.
Is my auto teacher. You'll read this in my book, but when I went down, to the guidance office when I was in grade 12, I was so excited. I wanted to be a lawyer. And I sat down and, my guidance counselor was looking at me and I just said, so, how do we do this? I want to be a lawyer. And he basically LOL'd me in my face and said, oh, dear, you're not smart enough to be a lawyer. You're not strong enough. You don't have good grades. Go, marry rich and don't have a few kids. You'll be fine. Don't worry about it. That was the words that my guidance counselor told me when I was 17. And, I went back to class, which was auto, and I was just in tears. Yeah. I was so destroyed. And, my auto teacher, kind of took me aside and said, listen, you weren't even supposed to be in this class. I was the first girl in auto. That's a whole nother story for another podcast.
That's a whole episode.
To take auto because apparently I had to learn how to sew and cook. And I was like, no, I want to know how to change my tire. Yeah. What if I get stuck? I don't want to depend on anybody. But anyway, and he basically said to me, he was the one that said, what's the matter, obviously. And I said, I wanted to be a lawyer. And he's like, it was the same thing. It was, you can be anything you want to be. Don't let one person define you and don't let outer influences or obstacles get in your way. That always stuck to me. And, I always got really good grades in auto and, there you go. So that was sometimes it just takes one person. And that's why I always try to pay it forward too, that when people are in a little bit of a funk or in a very dark place, sometimes just letting people know that they're not always going to feel this way. It's kindness all on its own.
That's awesome. We all need that one person and to have that is so important to help lift us out of that and show us and make us realize that, no, we are not defined by what one person says.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And we do get stuck with that. I'm not saying it wasn't hard for years, but as opposed to letting it destroy me and define me, I let it drive me.
There you go. That's the key right there, is flipping the narrative on that.
100%. 100%. That's a great question.
Thank you. If you had the opportunity to sit down and have a 1-hour conversation with one woman, any woman in the world, who would it be and why?
Ooh, definitely Oprah Winfrey. She was my role model growing up. You know, I came from a middle-class family, and she was my role model. And knowing her story and knowing how she got to where she got was so incredibly inspiring to me. And just super silly, funny story with Oprah is she is the one that I wanted to do so many things when I was younger. Yeah. And, you know, everything costs money.
Yeah.
And, you know, she said there was an episode where she basically said that, you know, I know you're all sitting here saying, you know, well, it's easy for you to say. And, you know, she would, you know, again, go back to her very underprivileged upbringing. And she said, you will find the way. And, you know, the audience members would put their hand up and she said, okay, it's all about money. So, you know how I opened up my first business, and it was about, she got a bunch of, I don't know the exact episode or how she said it, but she got a bunch of loans and credit cards and whatnot. And and I'm not suggesting this to people. I'm just saying it's what inspired me. And that's how I opened up my first business, because nobody wanted to give me money, and that's fine. But you find a way. Yeah. And so I just would love to, you know, share my story and let her know how influential she was, not only to me, so I'm sure to, you know, millions of others. But so that would be the reason why I would want to sit down, and I'd want to pick her brain and know what she's doing next.
Absolutely. Yeah. She's so influential on so many people in the world with what she's accomplished from where she came from and where she is now. And it's incredible. It truly is.
And it's evidence that, yes, you can.
Yeah, exactly.
Regardless of your outside influences.
Yes, for sure. Adrianne, what is your why?
I would have to say my family and serving others. That is my why. That is where, you know, because, you know, something I also learned through Tony Robbins is when you live in gratitude or you serve others, fear, anger, anxiety, depression, none of that can come in to your life. So my why would have to be, I mean, twofold, would obviously be my family, but also would be serving others.
Beautiful. If you could go back and give your younger self one piece of advice, what would that piece of advice be?
Don't eat the cake. I don't know.
Don't eat the cake.
I don't know. I'm kidding. My younger self. Oh, wow. That is, it would go back to don't let the outside influences, whether it's the guidance counselor, whether it's your friends, family, social media, don't let the outer influences inside you define you or stop you or cripple you from doing what you love and what you're passionate about doing. That's what I would tell myself, because, you know, you do get caught up in it. It doesn't matter what age you're at. When you're living a true, authentic life and, you know, you are the best version of yourself, you know, you still get some of the outside influences trying to come in.
Absolutely.
And, so if you can create that barrier that, you know, early in life, I would say that would be great.
Great advice. Lastly, Adrianne, if you were to deliver your last 30-second speech to the world, like your corner of the world, your people, your tribe, what would that last 30 seconds sound like? What would you say, or what words of wisdom would you impart?
Would this be to my family, or would this be to anybody and everybody?
Your people, your tribe, like your family, your friends, all those closest to you.
I would say something along the lines of, don't be so serious. Use humor. Sometimes in the toughest of times, it helps. Always follow your dreams. Do what you're passionate about and what lights up your soul and what makes you happy, not what makes your parents or your friends or your partners happy. A big one for me too is know when to let people and things go that no longer serve you or align with your core values. And you know, my really big one too is higher your standards in everything you do. Yeah. And what I mean by hiring your standards, you know, don't settle. for just okay, settle for great, and then tomorrow maybe greater. So higher your standards because you deserve it.
Lovely. Thank you so much, Adrianne. This has been an absolutely wonderful conversation. I've thoroughly enjoyed it. I love that this whole private investigator is so interesting and exciting to me. I love it. And I'm honored to have you here as a guest and to hear your story. And you're such an inspiration, all that you've accomplished, and being one of the first women in Canada to venture into this. It's proof that you can. And I think that's absolutely amazing. I think you're a wonderful role model for young girls and women who may not be too sure of themselves. And what you have managed to do just proves that, yes, you can. And I think that's absolutely incredible. So I'm honored to have you as a member of the Empowerography community, and I've loved every minute of our chat. Thank you so much for taking the time to be here. I appreciate you and all that you're doing. Keep shining your bright, beautiful light onto the world, Adrianne.
Thank you so much, Brad. Thank you.
Once again, my name is Brad Walsh, host of your Empowerography podcast. Today, my guest has been Adrianne Fekete. She is the owner and founder of Star Quality Investigations and a certified life coach. Thank you so much, Adrianne. I hope you have an amazing rest of the day.
You as well, Brad.
Thank you very much for listening to this podcast. If you haven't yet, please be sure to subscribe, rate, review, and share with all your friends. You can find me at visuphoria.ca and follow me on Instagram at Empowerography Podcast and on Facebook at Empowerography. Please join me next time for another inspirational story from yet another amazing woman.